the panel topic is putting AI to work. So we'll try to catch as much as we can in just this 30 minutes. Insights from our panelists about their road to success or failure. We discussed that we will start with something that is very little popular when you look at your LinkedIn profiles, and yeah. You're welcome. So we'll start with something that is little popular on our LinkedIn profiles and our conference presentations, which are failures. But as you know, the most you can learn is usually from not from success, but from failure. I had the pleasure to host one panel on one conference a year or something ago, and it was recorded by our TVN24, and it's available on the VOD platform. And it was about applied new technologies. And one of the things I said during the panel is that if you want to be innovative, you have to accept the risk of the failure and accept failures and try to learn from them. So you have to act like a venture capital. And someone put that on the VOD with a headline, Marcin Choiński, we have to accept failures. So it's pretty tricky topic, but I'll take a chance and maybe I'll ask you guys if you would like to share some failure story of your AI implementations, and like how it went, why it went wrong, and what lessons you have learned, and what would you like to share with the audience today. So who would like to start? I'm not going to point fingers.
Okay, maybe first.
Tomek, okay.
Hello, Tomasz Milowski-Trzesowski here. I think I have different perspective than my colleagues in the panel, because I am, as a company, external provider for project services to the customers. So based on the, let's say, our experiences, based on our knowledge, internal project has different requirements to be able to start and go through the, let's say, schedule and the program. For us, the most important is to build the trust with the customers, because as I mentioned before, we are external company. So the main effort we have to do before start the AI project is to build the trust with our customers. So through some kind of data discovery workshop, AI workshop, trying to find some kind of value for the customers. But I think this is important to say, by customer, I don't think only on the enterprise level, the SMB, small customer, where AI is able to do something fancy for them. So build the trust for them that they want to share data with us. And we started from failure, like you mentioned. So for me, it's not the one project. It's, let's say, some of few events we had some time ago about we did the data discovery, like I mentioned before. We did everything to start the project, and one day before kickoff, from the compliance security department, there was the, let's say, forbidden information about shared data with company like us. So for me, let's say, a lesson learned from this kind of project from the failure is to check if the company, our customer, is able to share data with third-party company to do the project, not just using the internal resources.
Okay. Any other big failures? Maybe something spectacular that...
So maybe I will refer to that, because actually I work within ING, and which is, let's say, group level, which is highly regulated. Yeah, so say comparing to this, let's say, vendor who works with mid, small, and big companies, you have, let's say, whole bunch of regulatory frameworks which you actually work with. Yeah, we have just one, yeah, but really, really extensive. And I think looking on our journey over the years, I worked there 5 years, and then we created, let's say, Polish unit, which is called Risk Hub, just to build or optimize model lifecycle. Model lifecycle in terms of highly regulatory credit risk models, which basically takes years to build. So we aim to have an order of magnitude reduction. And we didn't do it. Yeah? We did have a fraction of optimization of that project. projects, yeah, because we are building multiple of those models. And then security is also one of the things. Yeah? Let's say we cannot share anything with outside parties. Using public cloud, yeah, maybe now, but 5 years ago that was, let's say, complete fantasy to use it in banks. And I think we need to lessons learned from this big projects in a highly regulated environment is to manage three things. So let's say regulatory framework, we need to understand, predict what will happen also over the years, because they are much more robust, and over the years they are being extended. Second is technology and people, which is connected, because you can hire a whole bunch of people who want to explore really newest things, you know, deep neural networks back a few years ago, now Gen AI and those kind of stuff, but regulation doesn't allow that. Yeah? And also technology, rolling out the new technology platforms in this big organization is also slower than in the smaller ones, yeah? And also slower in the less regulated ones. Yeah? So then people are also pushing, but actual organization cannot fully go with the pace people are expecting. Yes, you need to manage the three parts.
And what about people? Because like my experiences is that many failures are that the project seems to, especially POC or MVP, seems to succeed, but the failure is that the adoption and usage, actual usage of the final product, and making this part of the process, part of the culture, part of the daily routine, is the problem, and many successful projects actually fail because their life cycle ends too early. So what about people and further like building business value on the products?
So maybe I can follow up on that. So IQVIA is a health science company, health data science company, and we are applying AI in many areas. Yes, like for drug development, for gene and disease mining, for clinical trials to optimize the trials, to simulate them, also like to recruit the patients, to predict patient outcomes. We are also using AI in areas like regulatory, to label the documents, to author them. We are also using it after the drug is launched, yes, to predict the commercial impact, and also to support the marketing with next best actions. Also in healthcare systems, yes, for auto mapping, auto coding. Yes. So with so many appliances, we are also failing quite a lot. And I think that all the aspects you mentioned, like the people, is very important, because very often we are failing not because of the technical aspects, technical issue, but because of the business and people. And what is critical, especially in healthcare, is building trust in AI. Yes, because if the patient health is on the line, impact of the bad decisions can be huge, yes, or even harmful. So one use case which I would like to share with you is luckily not so harmful, is that we built a system in which we try to code incoming data into codes. Yeah? So for example, the incoming data was a diagnosis written in free text, like the description of the diagnosis, that the patient was diagnosed with asthma, for example, or something like that. Yes? And the goal was to code that into medical codes like ICD-10. And the system which we built had very high accuracy. It was around 97%. And guess which technology we used to achieve that? Human brains. Yeah? So it was a manual process assisted with some rule-based. So that is, of course, a great occasion to also try using ML, using AI. We ran a couple of POCs because we have a couple of successful projects also in that area, and the accuracy of the models was around 60–70%. Yes? And our business didn't approve that. Yes? And they say that they would maybe approve the solution if the accuracy would be about 90%. And why they reject that? I think from three main reasons, which are not specific to healthcare. Yes? So the accuracy, in their opinion, was too low, and if the users will still need to review every record, why to invest in that? Yes? So the second factor was a cost factor. Yes? So additionally, they not only need to pay for these coders, medical coders to code, but also to train the algorithm, train the models, optimize them. So the maintenance costs are also very high. And I think what is also very important was a lack of explanations. Yes, and probably the business would be able to approve such cases. Or the low accuracy if the model will say why this decision was made or why this data was classified in that way. Yeah? So, so for that we also run quite interesting POC, and that's maybe a hint what you can try doing. We also try using LLMs. Everybody's now using LLMs, so we try to use LLMs to generate explanations. And the results are quite interesting, so probably we'll come back to the business. Maybe we would be able to convince them once more, and they will approve such solution. Yeah? So just a quick summary, I think that in IQVIA we are thinking that AI is the future of healthcare, but there is still a lot of work to do to building the trust, and especially if your users, customers are highly skilled professionals like doctors.
So we smoothly move to the healthcare. So we have Marta from Roche.
Yeah, obviously.
If you can relate.
Yeah, so I represent Roche Informatics today. Actually, we are not able to share many failures recently because we came to the point where we are really delivering our solutions. And actually, we got a first place recently in AI Readiness Index for pharma industry. And I want to share today key 3 success factors that I personally identified that brought us to that position. So first thing are starting small and then scaling up. So this is what you said previously. We are building proof of concepts. We are always trying to do that when we are implementing AI solutions. And only if it works, we are trying to scale it up. And actually, we have a full squad dedicated for running POCs. And obviously, this squad is recently testing mostly generative AI and LLM solutions. So it's quite similar to what you said previously. Second factor would be around our talents. So we actually built internal technical sustainable teams and we developed them. We created internal data and analytics academy. We have communities of practice. We share our knowledge internally. We share this hands-on knowledge coming from our projects, from our AI implementations. So this brought us to the state where we have really strong talent pool and we use it well. And the third thing that I identify are partnerships, because we are not alone in the ecosystem. We are cooperating with research facilities, with hospitals, with IT providers, with governments. And obviously, we cooperate with our patients, because we are on the pharma market, we are creating drugs and treatments. So a lot of our data is actually coming from our patients. And and we use this data for creating something for them. So we even have this statement saying that we are doing now what our patients need next.
You beautifully switched from talking about failure to talking about success.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to do that for years.
Perfect corporate approach, but I believe you mentioned something about failures in your 3 bullets, that you start with POC and you fail fast. I assume you do fail during doing your POCs, otherwise you wouldn't do the POCs. You would start from the.
Sometimes it's just not feasible, Sometimes the solution is good, it's working, but it's not worth proceeding. So actually we even had this discussion right before the panel that sometimes AI precision is essential for us, especially in pharma markets. So the problem comes with LLMs actually because they are sometimes not precise enough. So we are trying, testing what they can provide, what is the value that they can provide. For example, the recent demo that we created is that we are looking for some specific medical data in research articles. So we are just trying to, squeeze the information that we need to let our scientists read, for example, 10 pages and not 500 or something like that.
But you do admit that you fail in your POCs from time to time.
With POCs, of course, we do fail,
Okay, so you beautifully wrapped up what you said in 3 bullets, meaning that first of all, you need to do POC, fail fast, move fast, and basically be agile. Second of all, you need talent and in-house competence, which is, I believe, very popular. Like you can see on the market many companies that did data mining, data science, AI services, and there's a pretty a big amount of those companies that are no longer on the market or switch their profile because it's very hard business for these companies to serve such services. So many companies do it in-house. And third of all, you said the partnership with the business and understanding your partners and the business needs. So just to wrap up the first question, guys, if you could just, from your stories, just put 1, 2, or 3 bullets that you would like to wrap up and for people to remember about what are the key takeaways from your stories.
Trust your providers to share the data with them. This is the idea, to do the success with the AI. We need the data from you.
Philip?
So for me, it will be building the trust in AI. That's a key factor in healthcare.
Konrad?
So I think manage expectations of your people for your environment.
Marta, I guess you already put your 3
Yeah,
bullets.
so mine are already out there. So.
Okay, so we started with failures, and now something more LinkedIn-like, meaning that maybe you can share some of the success stories that you had and the key takeaways, like why you succeeded, and you have different perspectives as vendors, as people coming from different branches, different industries, different approach, business, technical, data. So I guess now everyone would like to start with their success story. Maybe Marta, you started with the success, so now maybe you will tell us about your success with some failure.
Yeah, I have more successes for you. When it comes to the successes and lessons learned from our projects, I must say that we are running mostly really large or even huge worldwide projects. So this is why we have some challenges, and we are trying to always find a way with kind of overcoming it to achieve the success. So what brings us to success in our industry is having great data quality and availability, because this is what's really important for us. Sometimes we are getting this data from our partners, but sometimes it's more difficult. So we invented something that is called Lab in a Loop, and it means that we are getting data from our labs. We do the magic with the AI on IT side, and we bring back this data back to the lab in order to generate more data, and it works in the loops. So this is kind of our one success story. Second one, regarding integration of AI solution. This is always a pain, and Kuba Witkowski, who represented us before, showed a little bit of lessons learned around MLOps. But obviously we also have, we need to think how to struggle with those integrations. So first of all, we are investing strongly in data engineering teams. Also, not only in AI developers, also our data engineering side is really great. And obviously we invest in new, modern, fancy technologies. So we are investing in concepts like data mesh, data lakes. We are trying to be totally cloud-based. So this is the second one. And the third one, I would say our, let's say, mini success around regulations and data privacy is that we started promoting federated learning. So maybe some of you have already seen our representatives on another conferences showing how it works. But in general, federated learning means that we don't need to move the data from its source. So we are able to test our AI models at the source. So for example, if the data is located with the hospital, we can just analyze the data and put the results into our servers. Yeah.
You mentioned one interesting thing about the foundation for good AI, which is data quality, data engineering, data platform, data availability, and accessibility. And maybe a question a little bit aside from our discussion, but from my experience, it's very easy to sell to the business stakeholders beautiful AI use cases that generate great results and show show the magic to the world, and they can only do it because below them there's a stable data platform and data ready for use. And when you go and try to sell like investment in data engineering, data platform, you are talking technical language and nobody wants to hear about it because it's not easy to show direct outcomes from such investments. So how you deal with that in Roche?
So I think we are past that. So we kind of dealt with that in the past, I guess. So right now we have the whole infrastructure ready for our solutions. We even have those practices that Kuba presented before. So we are investing strongly in ML ops and with the whole practices around it. So these days we are not struggling with that anymore.
And how you won the struggle in the past?
I have no idea. No, just
Great.
kidding. I don't know because it was a long time ago.
Okay, so it's a mystery.
Yeah, it's a secret.
Okay. Maybe Konrad, what's your success story you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I think it's around the same, yeah. But finally we managed, yeah. So finally we are rolling out those models, yeah. So if you look on highly regulated environment, what is the key point there to actually make it work is actually manage it, understand it fully, manage it, plan for it, and then just keep it real, yeah. Because if you need to create a whole bunch of documentation, basically every single model is for us thousands of pages. Yeah? So I don't believe that, maybe in pharma the same, but in other industries probably way less or even zero. Yeah? So for us it's thousands of pages, and that's being reviewed by internal audit, internal second lines, internal model validation, model risk management, but also external. So regulators are also looking into it. So you need to plan for it. You need to have a great frameworks, understand what needs to be done, and also in the big organizations, typically, let's say, remove silos, or at least if you have silos, and that's by design because regulators actually requires it. For example, validation or second line should be separate. You need to build a cooperation. You need to build the way of working, which actually allows to understand what will happen when, what are the expectations about, for example, data quality, so that at the, year and a half of building models, getting data, let's say validators won't be surprised with what we have in the data actually. Yeah, so this is something which we actually built and executed, and then right now those models are going live, and we are optimizing our capital.
And as a big fan of 90s hip hop, I really like the keep it real part of your story. Guys, what about you?
Okay, so maybe let's come back to the healthcare. So one example and use case which I'd like to share with you, which I think really is driving healthcare forward, is predicting patient outcomes. Yes, so IQVIA is partnering with entities like Ministry of Health, and we are trying based on the patient data, patient history, like the data like diagnosis, condition, observations, lab and test, measurements, social determinant of health, prescriptions or drug exposures. We would like to predict what is the risk that the patient will be diagnosed with some diseases, yes? And the areas which we are interested are like to predict the risk of getting stroke or heart attack or different kinds of diabetes or even cancer, yes? So how we are doing that? And I think like we have a couple of successful implementations already in countries like UK and Saudi Arabia. And in one of the use cases, we tried to build custom transformers architectures. Yes, like I think everybody is now trying to build custom transformers. Our idea is and goal is to instead of use a native language and sequence of tokens or words which are tokenized, build a sequence of events or patient or medical events. And what was quite challenging in that is that when you have a sequence of tokens of words, the distance between the words is not so important, yes? And when you are looking on the patient data, on patient events, the fact that the diagnosis happened yesterday or some event happened 1 year ago is critical. So we also need to consider that when we build our models. And in the end, we get quite successful results. But what is also quite interesting, and we get even better results for using, let's say, simpler old-fashioned techniques like gradient boosted trees using frameworks like XGBoost. Yes? So I'm not saying that you cannot use large models, and I think yes, definitely. And in the end, the best output we get, but combining these two words together and ensembling the models together. Yes? So that brings us a great results. And if you are interested in hearing more and learning more about this use case, please join my colleague Maciej Piotrowski. He will give a presentation about that today on a summit. So generally, I think like the recap is that, again, run POCs and also try with maybe some simpler, easier to implement, cheaper solution, and then evolve.
And also potentially be brave, because as I understand, you built your own foundation model on patient events instead of traditional words and tokens. It would be great if we could, check your model with our data and see the probability distributions for all the heart attacks, cancers, diabetes, and other stuff. It would be a great online service where you can put your data and check when you will die or
very
when
good idea. Very good idea. Yes, that can be an idea for a startup.
And the presentation seems to be very interesting, so I'll definitely join. Tomek, what about your success story?
Yes, those projects and success you present for me are very huge projects with very huge budget, with very huge teams. I would like to present something different for you. That, like I mentioned before, the main failure for us, the main common reason for failure is the trust of the sharing data with provider like us. But from the other side, I have the nice success story about one of our customers, e-commerce customers, who share all data with us. What was the idea of the project? There was no AI on the beginning. There was just to build, like you mentioned before, okay, it's nice when you have the data platform, centralized data, everything. So this is this kind of model of, let's say, cooperation with the customer. We built for them data platform, integrating the all third-party sources like the e-commerce, some kind of e-store and logistic warehouse management system. A lot of different source systems. There was no common value between those systems, so the idea was to be the data platform, like I mentioned before. And when the project has been done, the platform is working perfectly. Based on the analysis of the data, the old data from the customer business, they occurred that the box, this is, I think, this is the common issue for all deliveries. When you buy something in the internet, you get your stuff in the twice bigger box than should be. So the idea of the project from the customer point of view was to optimize the cost, just for the money, because of the box, because of the logistics, because of the transportation. So based on small e-commerce customer, not the healthcare with the huge budget, is to build the model to provide to the warehouse employees the information about the right size of the box for the sending the package to the customers. So it was very quick, very fast, with low budget project, with success, but I think the main reason of the success was we had data from the customer source systems.
And when you mentioned about fast projects without a budget, what came to my mind is that many times in my department we are faced with situations where you have like very wide business requirements and expectations, no time, no budget, no resources, and then you have to deliver against all odds. And in the end, it turns out that sometimes something that sounds like an AI is actually not an AI project, and you can get like 80 or 90% of the benefits doing something much simpler or very narrow in terms of what was initially expected and still deliver. So if I was to talk about some success stories from my side, it would probably be this, that when you are faced with extreme situations, you come up with extreme solutions, and sometimes it works, and it doesn't have to be AI in all the cases. Okay, guys, so we have just 1 minute left, so maybe we'll run out a little bit of time, but if you would like to leave the audience with something from your side, like one bullet in terms of how to succeed with AI projects, go ahead and recap on your stories with this one key point, one by one. Marta, we started with you.
Oh, again. Okay, so I think the key point is that AI solutions are quite different from usual, let's say, application development. And my advice would be to stay open-minded, as you mentioned, because not every AI project will be finished with AI at the end. This is also the experience that we have. Yeah, and maybe one more quick comment. Our stand is outside, so if any of you would like to talk to me, I will be just behind that door, probably.
Konrad?
Yeah, so
Don't bother about that.
as you said, so keep it real. I would say focus on the outcome and keep it real or realistic.
Philip?
Okay, I would say start small, and there is a hype for using GenAI and LLMs right now, but sometimes simpler or maybe tools are working the best, so don't forget about other machine learning techniques and models, and even sometimes rule-based or algorithm mix can make your job to work.
Polyglot AI, yeah, it's the right tools for the right solutions. Tomek?
I think I agree with you. A small, fast, with the good definition of the OD of the project.
Okay, we are a little bit just out of time. It's not typical for me. I would usually go at least 15-20 minutes past the date, but thank you guys for all the insights. Hope it was insightful for everyone in the audience, and thanks once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.